Sometimes prosperity seems so far out of reach, like a mountain too high to climb. Seems like it's an impossible feat. I can tell how you're hurting. I can see how sad you feel. Take a look around. There's so much love to be found. That's what's really real. When you give with love, live your life with love. Have a little faith, be in the flow. That's when life changes and grows. When you live with love, give your life with love. When you give, you will receive. That's what I believe is true prosperity. Does your life sometimes seem like one big bill to pay? Always stuck in one place, and it seems like it's always gonna be that way. Well, we can change our thinking. It'll change the way that we feel. Just take a look around. There's so much love to be found. That's what's really real. When you give with love, live your life with love. Have a little faith, be in the flow. That's when life changes and grows. When you live with love, live your life with love. When you give, you will receive. That's what I believe is true prosperity. When you give, you will receive. That's what I believe. You too? That's true prosperity.
Please join me in prayer. We begin November by looking at the mundane, the sacred, and the profane. Oh my. And today we come together as expressions of the divine life that is God, the one life that permeates all creation. And we come together to revel in the ordinary, celebrate the mundane. We are grateful for everyone that's come into this space to make this celebration possible. Our musicians, our sound team, our hospitality team, our practitioners, and our Reverend Jenn, through whom Spirit will speak today to give us pointers on how we can revel in the ordinary. I give thanks for everybody within the sound of my voice who will get to hear this message and know that all life is sacred. I give thanks for everyone here in this room and all within the sound of my voice, and for all that is taking place this day. And release these words in the divine law where they're already done in the universal mind. I let this go, I let it be. Together we affirm, and so it is. Our first words of inspiration today come from Pema Children. Meditation includes training yourself to be fully present, brushing your teeth, washing the dishes, eating breakfast, breathing, or walking. We're training in the process of waking up. From Dr. Marissa Pay, if the grass is greener on the other side, water your own grass. And from our founder, the Honorable Dr. Ernest Holmes, the thing that stands between you and your greater good is a thing of thought and nothing else. It's not reality that must change. It is your mental reaction to it.
Welcome to November. The picture that you see on the screen in front of you is not the behavior you are to duplicate in this room. I knew I was taking a big risk by putting a picture of a man yawning, but I wanted to make a point, and then I thought, oh, I've made multiple points, so I wanted to clear that up. So here's where we're at. For 5 weeks, 5 consecutive weeks in October, we talked about the idea of paradox. What is a paradox? What does it mean? And what we discovered in this whole teaching and through these last few weeks is that we can hold up seemingly opposing thoughts in our mind at the same time. We can literally look at 2 sides of a coin and we can see both of them clearly and not need to choose one or the other, not need to make one bad and one good. That's not the energy that we needed to bring to the table. And so today we're going to start a new theme for the month. And this one is about the fact that we have this really interesting ability to categorize our lives. I don't know if you've had that experience where I'm doing this right now and this is a good thing and I feel good about it. Now I have to go do this, which is a drudgery, and I don't want to do it, and I'm going to grumble the way through it, and I'm going to grumble afterwards, and I'm going to grumble to everybody before I do it. You get where I'm going with this, right? So we have these categories that we place ourselves into and place our life into, and we use certain criteria to define whether or not we're happy in the creation of the current moment. So who is making that decision for you? When you're looking at something grudgingly, when you're looking at something and you just, just don't want to have to deal with it. And those tasks have changed for me over time. There was a time when the last darn thing I wanted to do is take out the trash. That's not even, I don't even think about it anymore. In fact, I'm grateful to collect the stuff and get it out of the house, but whatever. But who is making that decision for you? Because the truth is, each one of us is responsible for making that choice for ourselves. So we're projecting a little bit sometimes. We're telling ourselves, oh, this is going to be grueling. This is going to be boring. Oh my gosh, this is going to be so boring. This is going to be such a challenge. Oh, this is going to be so much fun. And we set ourselves up. And then we try to comply, and we comply by creating all of those wonderful stories and dialogues that reaffirm that what I already said was going to happen is the truth, because we like to be right. So in this month, we get to look at these a little bit more in depth and say, okay, where are we going with all this, and what can we do with this? It is really difficult to be engaged in any interaction or task when there's no passion. And the passion is that energy, that purposefulness that we have that comes forth. And we can change that, we can shift that, we can alter it if we want to. So we're going to look at the mundane, the sacred, and the profane. Oh my, is week 4. So we'll see where we get to by the time we get to week 4. So I have this little quote from Anonymous, one of our favorite people. Boredom is the birthplace of genius. So when I started looking at the idea of mundane, that's not necessarily a term we use very often, but it usually stands for something that's either kind of, maybe it's a complacent task, it doesn't require a lot of thought process, it doesn't require a lot of energy, or maybe it's just totally boring. It's just, oh my gosh, if I have to do that again, I can't stand it, type of concept. And it's when we are in that moment, when we are in that place where we really don't have to figure it all out, we really don't have to take energy to do the task, that we are the most likely to create something new. So how eager can we get now, knowing that if we step into a task that maybe is mundane or boring, if we want to call it that we know that we're going to create something out of it that's going to be even better. I can get excited about that. I don't know about you, but I can get excited about that. Now, I have discovered a new challenge again in my life. It's been there before, and I know many of you can relate, because if you've ever been around a young person, and I'm not going to say what age bracket, but my grandson Gabriel's 8. You all are pretty aware of that. And holy Moses, don't let that kid get bored. I mean, he has a creative mind that is going 90 miles an hour all the time, and every once in a while, he stops and he is bored. And it is the worst thing that could happen to me, to be in the presence of him with his boredom. He's struggling, he'll get over it. But I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't had to deal with this in so many years regarding the kids and the grandkids. And it's interesting to look at that. And what he is trying to teach me is that he has no control. And what I'm trying to teach him is, then who does? If you're choosing boredom, who chose that for you? Because I didn't have anything to do with it, because I just walked in the room and I had to hear all about it, so it's that kind of a thing. So I have a little piece here I want to share. The Trappist monk, Thomas Merton, met a Zen novice many years ago. And this Zen novice had just finished his first year of living in a monastery. And so Merton was really excited to have a conversation with this individual. And he was expecting to hear all of these scenarios of the enlightenment and those aha moments that came forth and all of these wonderful things that took place. And he was asking him, how did it go? What did you learn? What happened? And he said, well, I learned how to open and close doors. And Merton thought, oh? And he said, yeah, without slamming them, without not quite getting them shut correctly, to be in that present awareness of being able to walk over and close a door or open a door and be able to be conscious about what I'm doing in that moment. And Merton was just so enthralled with that, was just impressed with that. It was like, oh my goodness, what a simple task. So this week, as you're looking at the mundane in your life, you might want to practice opening and closing the door and just see how that works for you, because sometimes it's just that simple motion, that simple action. I had the opportunity last evening to watch a film that I think has just come out, because everybody was talking about it this morning. It's called Naiad. And it is about Diane Naiad, who was a swimmer, who in her early years made an attempt to swim from Cuba to Florida. That's 103 miles of ocean space that is very, very challenging. Now, in her early years, she did not accomplish the task. And for many years, all of the wonderful people involved in all of that said it was impossible, that you could not overcome the challenges of the ocean, you could not overcome the water temperatures and the possibility of storms coming in, that there was never a time when that would be a workable situation. At her 60th birthday party, she realized her life had become mundane. And Diane decided that she was not going to wait to die. She was going to move from that mindset into creating something amazing. And the amazing thing she wanted to create was she wanted to go back and capture that dream that she had so many years before and accomplish it. So at the age of 60, she began to train. And she made 3 or 4 attempts. But by the time she was 64 years old, this woman swam 110 miles, because she got knocked off course a little bit, 110 miles from Cuba to Florida. And what I did not know is that when you do a race of that kind, when you're trying to make a world record or whatever you're about, there are certain criteria. There's things that you have to do and you can't do. And so when she was coming out of the water, they're cautioning all these people to stay away from her, because if someone had gone forward and touched her before she came out of the water fully, everything was going to be discounted. And I'm thinking, who's making up these rules? I mean, she just swam 110 miles. Seriously? I would have stood at knee length and said, somebody's got to carry me to shore. But she had to walk to shore on her own and accomplish that. And it was just such a significant story. And at the end, she said, one of the things that she said was, you are never too old to pursue your dream. And I had to sit with that for a minute, because it was like, okay, so is there a dream for me that I have discounted, or I've put it aside, or I've created a story, which I'm really good about, and I'm not looking at that anymore. And I still have the capability of doing that, because I'm watching her as she's getting into shape, and I'm thinking, for almost 35 years, she was swimming, but not like she had been, not in the competitive nature and doing the massive, long treks that she'd been doing when she was younger. So she'd stepped away from that, and how often do we do that? We start blaming the body. My body's this old, and I can't do that anymore. And she wasn't going to let that stop her. Now, she has a quirky personality, so get ready for that if you decide to watch the film. But it was a great portrayal of her story and the woman herself, and it was absolutely beautifully done. So, we don't have to live in the mundane. We can shift. We can shift gears, and we can start living our lives right now where we are. Or we can sit back, maybe enjoy some boredom, maybe enjoy some mundane behavior, and wait for what's coming. We are completely at choice with that. Our founder, Dr. Ernest Holmes, says this: God is an infinite presence and an indwelling reality. The silent whisperings of this inner presence come to each of us as a divine revelation, an inner communion of the individual spirit with the oversoul, that vast and invisible presence in which we live, move, and have our being. How beautiful is that? So in this idea here, where we're talking about this presence of God within us and what it brings to us, we recognize again that idea, that truth of our being, that we are one, the oneness concept. And we look at the one, which is the divine, and how it describes itself. What is it telling us about what it's like to be one with all life? It shares with us the characteristics of oneness, which are love, compassion, spirituality, being, creativity, wisdom, intuition, and on the list goes. And we get stuck sometimes. We get stuck in that idea that something's wrong, I'm bored, my life has become mundane, I've lost my passion. I hear that phrase from people all the time. I've lost my passion. I'm like, well, where did you have it last? When was the last time you saw it? Because we could go back there and see if we can recapture it. But we have just we've gotten into this complacency, I think, and it's tough sometimes to get out of that. And so we want to search, we want to seek, we want to research, we want to rediscover if that's what it's going to take. And it's just a simple little thing, a very simple little process. If you're washing the dishes by hand, which some of us do, and you don't care for that, start to pay attention to the texture of the water. Start to pay attention to the bubbles, because I got to do a lot of bubbles if I'm going to do dishes. And start to pay attention to the things that are giving you kinesthetic kind of feedback from that process, where you're feeling things. Allow your mind to wander, because isn't that kind of sort of what we're talking about with meditation anyway? I was told years and years ago, when you are doing any task and it's repetitive and you don't have to engage your brain, that's a form of meditation. And then we sell ourselves short and we go down the road, and 10 years later we're upset because we don't have any spiritual practices. Well, yeah, you do. Meditation is one of the simplest things for us to engage in. And what we want to remember is, whether you feel it or not in the moment, Spirit is present. We talk ourselves into thinking that I've separated myself from God and God's not here for me and whatever. And the truth is that isn't the truth. That just simply isn't the truth. So we are divine beings. We are living a human experience. And in that space, we can't be anything but connected to Source, the divine. It's impossible. This little thing up here, this brain, well, maybe it's not so little, but this brain up here can teach us a whole lot of things. It can convince us of a whole lot of things. And it can convince us that there's such a thing as separation, and that's not the truth. Our spiritual practices help us move through this all the time. Mindfulness, where we're practicing the present, allowing ourselves to be right here, right now. Being with the sacredness of what is. Self-awareness, which is paying attention when we label, judge, or we disconnect from reality. Just being aware, not going into self-beat up, just being aware of what we're doing. Gratitude is a spiritual practice, simply being grateful for all that is. I found a little story about Buddha that was talking about what meditation is like. I thought this was so perfect. He says, it's like when you take the fish off the line, you've just caught a fish, take it off the line, and you throw it down on the ground and you watch it flopping around, gasping. That's what our brains are doing when we're trying to meditate. And I thought the picture was perfect for me, because it's the truth. I can come up with 80,000 things to do that I need to get up from where I'm at and go do them now when I am making the effort to meditate. Just like that poor little fish that's flopping around on the ground. That's what's going on in here. And so we don't want to step away from that. We don't want to discount it. We want to keep trying. We want to keep making forth the effort. And I've done a lot of reading about people becoming a monk and people who've gone out and to seek out the spirituality of life. And they talk about sitting in a chair or sitting on the floor, and their ankles are hurting, their back is hurting, and they can't concentrate and all this stuff. And that's meditation, because it's leading you somewhere. And if you stay with it, it's going to continue to lead you and it's going to support you. Buddha also said that meditation, in the process of getting you where you want to be, may show you something you don't want to see. And I don't know about you, but if something is showing me something I don't want to see, I might not go there to begin with, because why would I want to see that, right? So again, meditation is one of the most beautiful processes we can step into, one of the greatest activities. And so yes, the mind chatter shows up. Okay, so let the mind chatter show up and continue the process, focusing on the breath, sitting still, allowing yourself to be quiet, to be in the peaceful space. and keep moving forward in that process and allowing yourself to choose that meditation and that meditative state. Sharif Abdullah said, a world that works for all is one where our mundane actions serve our deepest individual and collective needs. In such a world, the possibility of the beautiful and the sublime exists because we have taken care of the ordinary. So we get to have the ordinary with the extraordinary. We get to participate in that as well. And guess what? Spirit's in that too. Spirit is in that activity, in that action, in that awareness, in whatever we're doing in that space where we're feeling like it's boring and it's not worth it. And boy, if I could pay somebody to do this, I would type concept. Spirit is still there with us in that space. And this is where it can really trip us up because we become so bothered by it that we start to avoid it. And that's not a good thing. Anytime we step into any activity where we're avoiding anything, we are short-circuiting our spiritual growth. We are short-circuiting our ability to transform. For some of us, and I did this in my early years, if things got too quiet, I needed to create some chaos. I needed to create a disaster. I'm really good with disasters. I learned how to do that years ago, and some of us are. And when things are falling apart and it's grabbing our attention and there's nothing else we can do, that's the best time for us to just jump in and work it out and expend a lot of energy and maybe be the hero or whatever it is we're striving for in that space. But again, it's not a healthy step. It's not a healthy action. And it took me quite a few years to learn that I could be content and happy, and actually I could be in that place of just ecstatic without the chaos. That was a very interesting awakening for me, to realize that I didn't have to have that insanity, if you want to call it that crazy stuff going on, that chaos. So I found this little story about an individual who was going to purchase something on Amazon, and he was looking for a really sharp knife. And so he read the reviews. I didn't even know there were reviews on Amazon, but okay. Anyway, so he read the reviews, and one person had put in there, "This knife is too sharp, and I cut myself." And he thought that was so funny, because the level of consciousness that person was focusing on was anti for that person, but it was exactly what he was looking for. And he thought, oh my gosh, if the knife is that sharp, I have to have one. So he bought it. And so he was in his kitchen, not fully present, with the knife in his hand, washing it, and failed to pay attention to what he was doing and sliced right through his hand. And he looked down and he laughed. Now, it was painful, and there was blood, of course. But he was laughing because he thought how subjective the mind is, and how interesting it was in that nanosecond when he took his attention off this sharp object in his hand that he actually hurt himself. And then he began to realize that it wasn't the knife that was at fault. It was the very fact that he had not been paying attention. And what a great concept is that. I mean, many of us would have sent it back to Amazon. Maybe not. But anyhow. So we want to go about this concept this week from an accountable standpoint. And an accountable standpoint says that I am responsible and accountable for all the things that happen to me in my life. I can make choices, I can make decisions, I can get ready to leave the house and I choose not to, and I leave 20, 30 minutes later, and then I get stuck in a traffic jam or something. I can't get all upset about the traffic jam because maybe if I'd left 30 minutes earlier, that wouldn't have happened. And it's not about beat up, and it's not about blame, it's not about taking fault, it's about being accountable. I'm choosing this life, and I'm choosing it this way, and everything I do is going to unfold for me based on those choices. Edward Hayes tells us to take time Slow down, be still, be awake to the divine mystery that looks so common and so ordinary and yet is wondrously present. Are you able to do that? Are you able to look at that very idea that something is simple, maybe not even worth our time or energy, and look at it and see something else there and allow yourself to really look at it? There was a gentleman who used to do photography with the local camera club, and they would go to all these beautiful places to do all of this scenery and photographs. And he was watching the other individuals in the class, and they would kind of all group together, and they'd run over here because somebody would be like, oh my gosh, look at this, and they'd all run over and take a picture, and then they'd all kind of run over this way. And he didn't participate with them in that same aspect. And when they got done, they were sharing their photographs, and people were looking at his pictures and going, where did you take this? I didn't even see this. Where did you take this? I didn't even see this. And how often is it that we get little discombobulated, we get kind of out of focus because someone has grabbed our attention and is trying to get us to see something here when we were right on the verge of that beauty, of that expression, all on our own, all by ourselves. And so in that awareness, that we keep talking about this wonderful word awareness, it's like I get to pay attention to who I am and what I'm doing and what I'm about and what I'm choosing. And in that process, the best thing for me is not to let anybody else get in my way. If, in fact, that's the challenge that I'm having, where that could cause a distraction for me. Too often, we believe that our lives should be about big, world-saving activities or high-impact moments of excitement. And yes, that's a blend that gets to be a part of our lives. But I think we'd be very exhausted if that's all there was. If we only had those huge, monumental moments and nothing in between. We've got to have the balance, the highs, if you will, and the lows. This week, I encourage you to spend 10 minutes. You can start out with 5. You can start out with 2. Doesn't make any difference to me. Just in that space of non-thinking, non-productive, non-activity, allowing yourself to just be in that place of the silence and the meditation. What you'll notice is your thoughts will come alive and they'll get really chatty, unless you are very experienced at meditation, and if you are, bless you, more power to you. But what happens in that chattiness is you can pay attention to, are you being geared to look at the past? So what are those thoughts that show up for you in meditation? Are you rehashing the things that have already happened? Or are you going into a forward motion where you're thinking about what you're going to do, what you need to do, what has to happen, what you want to create? Because what is the meditation about? Be here now. Just being here now in that space. So one of the things that it supports us in kind of reeling this in, if you will, is when we discover that our thoughts aren't in the present. And when we're doing it in this quiet, in this silent time, we are very aware of the fact that that's happening all the time. We might not always be paying attention to it. So again, bringing the mind back to center. And how we do that in meditation is we breathe. We focus on the breath and the breathing. So I'm wondering if we can stop waiting for something to happen and be fully present with the now. I know we can. I know it takes practice. But what a beautiful thing to be present in a situation and be able to remember everything that just happened. When I got married for the very first time, I remember I was up in a elevated nursery space looking out a window at the people that were gathering in the sanctuary, and I remember thinking, if I go downstairs like I feel right now, I'm going to miss my wedding, because I was a bundle of nerves. I don't know where this came from. I was, 20 years old? But anyway, and I kept thinking, I just needed to keep taking breaths and be present now, because I wanted to see the people. I wanted to feel the emotions. I wanted to be a part of that process for me. And I was able to do that. And that process has lasted for me. The marriage didn't, sorry. But the process has lasted for me for years, is to know when I want to be fully present and remember. And we can do that. And again, that's just a conscious effort. And the thing I want you to remember is you don't have to climb a mountain or swim 110 miles. It's not for everybody. We can find our joy, our purpose, our passion right here, right now. And sometimes we can find that in the mundane. Scott Andrew gives us this quote. Has anyone else found the mundanity of the pandemic sort of enlightening? I loved that first sentence, so I had to grab this quote because I just thought that sounded great. I'm noticing things I'd overlooked before. The symphony of birds who sing a different tune from sunrise till dark, the way light bounces off the mirrors in my bedroom and creates little rainbows, the wee lizard who perches himself on the same patio chair every day. If this unique time is good for anything, it is rediscovery. And falling back in love with a familiar place that makes the days sweeter. How beautiful is that? I got bored during the pandemic a lot. A lot of the time I felt like I was in the mundane. There were times I felt like I was going to start climbing the walls. Good news is I could pick up the phone and call almost any one of you and you'd answer. So we got to have conversations. But still, you look at that and you think about that, and it's like that was challenging, that was tough. We want to tap into the idea of enlightenment. Enlightenment. The Zen teacher says, before enlightenment, carry water, chop wood. And when asked what we do after enlightenment, the Zen master said, carry water, chop wood. It's the same task. The same things are going to happen to us. It's just that we're going to be involved with them at a different level because of our enlightened mindset. As we climb out of this idea or this concept that there is a mundane step in our lives, there's a mundane piece of our existence, and we start to see it for what it really is and what we can create from it, we begin to see all the miracles that exist for us because of spirit. And I'm going to close today with a lengthy quote from Mother Teresa. Do not think that love, in order to be genuine, has to be extraordinary. What we need is to love without getting tired. How does a lamp burn? Through the continuous input of small drops of oil. If the drops of oil run out, the light of the lamp will cease. What are these drops of oil in our lamps? They are the small things of daily life. Faithfulness, words of kindness, a thought for others, our way of being silent, of looking, of speaking, of acting. These are the true drops of love. Be faithful in small things because it is in them that your strength lies. This also reminds me to recapture the context here that we get to step away from comparison. Because when I compare myself to someone else, I have a really good habit of diminishing what I'm doing. And so I can do small love things. I can do good love things. I can continue to love and replenish my soul so that I'm not exhausted and that I'm going forward. And I don't have to think about it that I'm not doing enough. And that crosses our minds so easily from time to time, especially when someone we love dearly leaves planet Earth. Some of us get into that place of, did I do enough? Was I there enough? Did I offer enough support? And those are examples of comparison to what we think we should be doing in relationship to what we are doing. So what we're going to do this week is we're going to take whatever mundane task we get involved in, and instead of thinking, oh, here I am again, and we're going to say this to ourselves: this is the most important and sacred moment of my day, right here, right now. I know oneness is here with me, and I choose to notice it. This week, you don't have to fight the mundane. All you need to do is practice being in the now. Please pray with me. As we just breathe in to this space, to this moment here now, we recognize the music in the background. We recognize the quiet, the peacefulness. We recognize and are aware and are reminded of the very truth of our nature, that we are of God. We are in God. We express as God, and Spirit is here. God is here with each and every one of us continuously all the time. And what we know is that we are from Source. All of us are children of the divine. Therefore, we are all brothers and sisters. We are all connected. We are all part of the same family. And as we recognize that, we know that we have a purpose. We have a special energy that is ours alone to navigate through this path, through this time on earth, and how we interact with one another. And we choose right here and right now to look at the idea of that, of who we are and how we are, to look at the tasks and the things that we do throughout the week, and to embrace them with joy, grace, and gratitude. And to let ourselves know that sometimes it may feel mundane, and yet in that moment, Spirit is still present. And it is in that quiet, when we're not doing anything, that we come full circle to our greatest creativity. How beautiful this is, how blessed we are, and how good is our God. And so knowing all of this, I just give thanks. I give thanks for the opportunity to speak these words. I give thanks for the people present in the room and those who are watching online, and I give thanks for this beautiful, incredible place we live in called planet Earth, where we are guided by the divine in all things. I know it's good, I know it's perfect, and I know it is all God. And so right here and right now, we simply let it go. We let it be, as we say together, and so it is. Little birdie told me life is so sweet. When I listen to her sing, you know I feel so complete. I have all the keys talking about love, joy, peace. The power is infinite. Love will increase. I hear you singing. Want to sing? I am happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. Yeah, happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. And I know the light of love is shining in our eyes. Happy and healthy, what? Wealthy and wise. I bet if I do the next part. Little birdie told me, yeah, you know it's true. Told me life is so sweet. When I listen to that song, how about you? We can feel that life's complete. And here's why we have all the keys that we need. And the power is infinite. Gonna know love will increase. Here we go again. Give me all you got. I am happy, healthy, wealthy, and wise. Yeah, happy and healthy, wealthy, and wise. I know the light of love is shining in your eyes. Happy and healthy, wealthy, and wise. Happy and healthy, wealthy, and wise. Happy and healthy, wealthy, and wise. Oh, ba, 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 ba.
Hello, I'm Reverend Jenn Wilde, Senior Minister for New Dawn Center for Spiritual Living. New Dawn Center is a global community, and we welcome all people, all paths, all ways of thinking, all philosophies. So know that you are welcome here, and thank you for joining our online community.